Are you looking to transplant your tomato plants? In this video, I'm going to show you how simple it is to transplant your tomato plants. Hi, this is Jeremy Starke here from Green Thumb Gardener, here to give you some tips, tutorials, and reviews for all your gardening needs. Today's video, we're going to go over just a very simple way on how to transplant your tomato plants. So maybe you've went to the store and maybe you grabbed a few tomato plants and you want to make sure that you get them in your container or even the ground, as best as you can. Maybe you've also started your tomato plants from seeds. You're just ready to go on to the next step, which is to get them into your garden or your container. So in this video today, I'm going to show you the best way on how to transplant your tomato plants to get them successfully growing in your garden. Before we get started though, if you could please give us a green thumbs up, let us know that we're making great videos for you. Also, if you could hit the subscribe button, it's right down there I think, somewhere down there. Hit the bell also so you get notified of any new videos that we do have. Also, if you want, I have some free garden hacks for you. Just take a look at the link above and you'll be able to download your free garden hacks. They actually save me a lot of money each year by following each of those. Well, now that we get that away, let's get right into it. All right, so once you get you want to work with a container or a pot or some kind of bucket that you're gonna have enough. You want to have enough soil in it. I recommend not to do anything smaller than a 5-gallon bucket or a grow bag. These grow bags are really good. I believe this is actually 10 gallons in here. So the soil mix that I use in here is roughly about half of, it's about half of compost, and then probably maybe a third, a little bit more than a quarter of peat moss. And then I also add in some leaves. I add in some perlite, which is good for any kind of container that you have, and a little bit of vermiculite as well. So I use these same ones every year. They do fine. The only thing I do add to it, in addition to, if you're using, some soil from last year, is I do add some more cow manure or fertilizer, or if you like me, also I have worm compost as well, so I would add a little bit of that. The other thing I also add into it is I do add some blood meal, some bone meal, and some rock dust or azomite. You can also use green sand. Green sand is actually another good one. It's more of a balance for the fertilizer, and then you're also going to water it with some water-soluble fertilizers as it does grow. But when you first get started, before you actually transplant in there, you want to make sure you get your bucket or your soil ready. Now, if you also do this in the ground, it's pretty much the same thing. You want to make sure your soil has some good organic matter in there, such as compost or cow manure, and then you can add the same trace elements in there, the non-soluble fertilizers in there if you want as well. There's also some other brands out there that kind of like do it all, like fertilizer that has like a mix of everything. I just happen to like these because I can add my own and I can change it up if I need to. But so what we're going to do, we also have a lovely San Marzano tomato that we're going to plant as part of our transplanting. Just another thing about tomatoes is there's two different versions of them. There's an indeterminate, which is the vining one that just will continue to grow, and you'll see continuous growth until it gets cold out or something kills it or something. And then there's also the bush variety. There's also dwarf varieties as well, so I should say there's really 3 of them. But this one is a indeterminate, and it does get pretty large for this one. You could still grow this in a container. The only thing you need to be aware of is you want to have a way to trellis it for it. So before we transplant everything in there, what I'm going to do is add in some of the compost that I have in here. I happen to use whatever they have at the store. I get just some organic one that you can find pretty much anywhere they have it. Just cow manure or composted cow manure is also good as well. So I like to add a generous amount of it in there when I'm just starting fresh from a new container that's been used previously, because I want to get more organic matter in there. So I kind of mix it around. I'm also going to add in my my other fertilizers as well before I mix everything in. So I'm not really a very scientific gardener. I just use kind of a handful. So for this one, I'm gonna just go for just a kind of an all-around mix. So maybe a handful and a half of the bone meal, and then a handful of the rock dust and the bone meal as well. All right, so I got this in here. I get this all nice and mixed up. Careful, this stuff is really dusty too. By the way, some of this stuff. So. Okay, so you get it all nice and mixed up in here. And what this stuff does, the non-soluble fertilizer, it does take some time to break down. So this is not going to be available right away for the plant, but it's good to get it in now before you don't want to disturb anything and add it in there. You can add it in later, but it's kind of good to get it down a little bit deeper because then you can get this in the roots. So one thing the other thing you also want to do before is you want to water it really good. I've already watered it just before the video, so you want to get it nice and wet in there. And then if you have a big container like this, or even the smaller ones, the best way to get them out is you pinch the bottom of it, and then it should just slide right out, just like that. So you're gonna see that this is a fairly healthy transplant. This has got some roots, but it's not like wrapped around it, and it's also a pretty good size. It's not too leggy. Now there are some of them that you're going to find that if you get them from the store, or even if you grow them yourself and you didn't get a lot of sunlight on it, it's going to be a little bit taller and you won't see as many leaves in here. Great thing about tomatoes is they're very versatile. They're very adaptable too. So you can do this two different ways. I suggest to break off the very bottom leaves right here. And then I like to bury it all the way, basically all the way up into this thing right here. Because what it's going to do is the plant is actually going to grow. It's going to grow some roots coming off of the stem right here. And that's good for water absorption and for mineral absorption as well. The more surface area that you have, the better it is, in addition to the already roots. Another method you can do too is if you have a long one, is you can actually plant it like sideways, almost like this. And then you just kind of want to tilt it up. And that's really if you have a longer stem. And that way it will still grow. So all the roots would actually grow alongside this right here. So you can actually plant it just like this. But for this one, we're going to just plant it straight down. So I like to dig a nice big hole. And try to bury the plant as much as I can up to the bottom of the latest stem right here. All right. And then obviously once you get it in, you want to water it really good. You don't have to give this a liquid fertilizer for this one, but you can if you really want to, just to give it a boost. If you're going to do a liquid fertilizer, I would suggest a fish fertilizer. Liquid fish fertilizer is pretty good. You can mix that with some other, a bloom one, more bloom. And if you want to have a balanced one, but you can just give it a little bit of fish fertilizer. Right now it'll help give it a jump start for it. The other thing that you want to be aware of is you want to try to keep this out of the sun, direct sun, for at least 12 hours. I mean, if you have no other option, it's not going to really hurt it. But what happens is the plant does go in a little shock when you first transplant it. So you may see that the leaves might droop a little bit, depending on what type of plant, or if the tomatoes. Most of the time, the tomatoes, they just do really fine. They're very versatile as far as transplanting them. So you might not even notice anything. But you do want to make sure that you do water it the next day, because you want to water it and you want to make sure it gets watered while the roots are still kind of trying to grab hold of what it's in, the new medium that it's in. So just make sure that you do water it a little bit more than you normally would. And once it's been established for 3 or 4 days, then you can go and just water it when it needs it. Like, you don't have to overwater it or anything. So the other another tip about tomato plants, especially in containers, one of the things that you want to be aware of is you know, like I said, is that your trellis that you're going to use for this, you want to make sure that it has good access to it. For my containers, I normally do what's called a Florida weave, and I'll put the video above where you can see how to do that. So I try to keep my tomato plants in the same area, and then when I go and do the Florida weave, they're all in the same vicinity that I can easily do my method of trellising them up. But if you do have another trellis, you want to get it set up prior to it. So if you have another stake or something, you could stake it in right after you do this. Even though it's not ready for it, it really helps because then you won't damage, you'll damage less of the roots, you know, as opposed to when it gets a little bigger. So if you can do that before it really starts to grow, like as soon as you plant it, then that would probably be better for it. And plus it's easier just to be able to just put it right next to it, and then you could tie it up if you need, if you wanted to go the stake method. But that's really it as far as transplanting. If you're going to do this in the ground too, it's pretty much the same step as this, and you know, just putting all your fertilizer, your compost, and everything in before you do it, and then also getting your staking, or if you have some kind of cage, get that ready to put in there as well. Well, hope you found this video helpful. If you could, please give us a green thumbs up. Let us know that we're making great videos for you, and if you could, hit that subscribe button. I think it's down there. Hit the bell so you get notified of any new videos that we do have. Also, we do have a website, gardenerthumb.com, where we actually have lots of different articles and everything out there, especially on tomato ones. I'll post a link in the notes below so you can check that out if you want to. That's always, and I'll see you in the next video.